"I'll wash your mother and she'll walk," the maid said, so casually that Marcus Wellington almost laughed until his body locked in place and his breath vanished. Marcus, a 35-year-old millionaire in a navy blue suit and tie, stood frozen in the driveway of his beige stone mansion. Hands pressed to his temples as if his mind might split open, his dark blue luxury car idled behind him. But he couldn't move, couldn't blink, couldn't process what he was seeing on his perfectly manicured lawn. There, surrounded by trimmed hedges and blooming white, red and pink roses, sat his 78-year-old mother, Catherine, motionless in her wheelchair, calm and composed. Her white hair neatly pulled back beneath a blue cardigan. Standing beside her was Grace, the new maid in her late 20s, dressed in black with a white collar and apron, holding a garden hose and spraying cold water directly onto Catherine's head. "What are you doing?" Marcus screamed, sprinting toward them. His polished shoes sinking into the grass. Grace didn't flinch, didn't stop, didn't even turn. Her head as water streamed down Catherine's face and soaked her clothes. "I'm washing your mother," Grace said evenly, as if explaining something obvious. "And when I'm done, she's going to walk." Marcus lunged for the hose, fury exploding from his chest. "Are you insane? My mother hasn't walked in 12 years. She's paralyzed from the waist down. I've spent millions." He shouted, voice cracking, "Millions on specialists. Neurologists from Switzerland, therapists from Japan. Experimental treatments in Germany. Nothing worked. And you think a garden hose will fix what the best doctors in the world couldn't?" Grace finally looked at him, her gaze steady and unafraid. "All those doctors treated her body. None of them treated her mind." "That's ridiculous," Marcus snapped. "Every expert said the same thing. Permanent spinal damage, no hope." Grace tilted her head slightly. "When was the last time any of those experts actually examined her?" Marcus froze, the words hitting harder than any accusation. "When was the last examination?" Grace repeated softly. Marcus swallowed. 6 years ago, maybe 7. After the 5th specialist said there was nothing more to do, I stopped. Why torture her with false hope? He added, his voice weaker now. "So for 6 years," Grace said carefully, "no one has checked if anything changed. You just accepted the diagnosis and gave up?" "I didn't give up." Marcus protested, guilt and anger colliding in his chest. "I gave her the best care, the best nurses, everything she needed to be comfortable." "Comfortable," Grace echoed, not mocking, just stating a fact. Not challenged, not pushed. Just comfortable. She turned to Catherine and knelt. "Mrs. Wellington, when your nurses bathe you, do they use warm water?" "Yes," Catherine answered softly. "Marcus insists on it." "And do they touch your legs gently, carefully? Like you might break?" Catherine nodded slowly, something dawning in her eyes. "That's the problem," Grace said, lifting the hose slightly. "Warm water, gentle touches." Your nerves stopped responding because there was nothing to respond to. Everything became background noise. She continued, "That this is cold, shocking. Your nervous system can't ignore it." She looked back at Marcus. "Your mother has been bathed in comfort for 12 years. No pressure, no challenge, no reason for her body to wake up. That's not how it works." Marcus said, but doubt crept into his voice. "Isn't it?" Grace replied, turning the hose back on and spraying Catherine's legs through her clothes. "Mrs. Wellington," she said firmly, "focus on what you actually feel, not what you think you should feel." Catherine closed her eyes, concentrating deeply. "There's something, it's faint, like tingling." "I thought it was imagination." "It's not imagination," Grace said, then turned to Marcus. "Come here. I want you to feel this." She pressed his hand against Catherine's leg. "Press hard, not gentle." Marcus pressed, and Catherine gasped. "I felt that, Marcus. I actually felt that. If this moment gave you chills, tap the like button so more people hear stories like this. But how?" Marcus whispered. "Tears forming. Doctors are human," Grace explained, They see what they expect to see. Nobody expected healing, so nobody looked for it. Marcus felt like the ground shifted beneath him. I was protecting her. He said weakly, "You were burying her alive." Grace replied gently, in comfort and kindness, "But she's not broken. She's just been forgotten." Catherine's voice trembled. "She's right, Marcus. I felt things for years, but I was afraid to say anything. What if I disappointed you again?" She whispered. So I stayed quiet, stayed safe. Comment below if you believe fear keeps more people trapped than failure ever could. Marcus dropped to his knees in the grass, his expensive suit soaked and muddy. "I'm so sorry, Mom." Catherine touched his face. "You did everything you knew how. Now we try something different." She looked at Grace. "What do you need me to do?" Grace extended both hands. "I'll count to 3, and you'll try, not because you know you can, but because you're willing to find out. What if I can't?" Catherine asked. Terrified, "Then we try again tomorrow," Grace said calmly, "and the next day, until one of us gives up." Catherine laughed, a real laugh Marcus hadn't heard in years. "Okay, let's find out. Ready?" Grace asked. "Ready." Catherine replied, 1, 2, 3. Catherine pushed, arms shaking, face strained, and then impossibly lifted herself 3 inches off the seat before collapsing back, sobbing. But she had stood. "I did it." Catherine whispered. They tried again. 8 seconds this time, then 15, then 30. As the sun dipped orange and pink behind the mansion. "One more," Grace said, "but now take a step." "That's too much." Marcus started. "I can do it," Catherine said fiercely. "Grace, move back." Catherine stood, shaking, lifted her right foot, then her left. 3 impossible steps before Grace caught her as they laughed and cried together. "How did you know?" Marcus asked through tears. "Because I was paralyzed too." Grace said quietly, "For 3 years, until someone refused to accept my limits." 4 months later, Catherine walked into Marcus's office using only a cane. Marcus promoted Grace to full-time rehabilitation specialist, paying her 5 times her old salary and every Sunday. They sat together in the garden, surrounded by roses, remembering the day a garden hose proved that miracles begin when someone refuses to give. Subscribe if you believe it's never too late for a second chance, because more stories like this are coming.